Hello, hello, and welcome to Off the Mark. I am your host, Miss Tootie O, and with me is my beautiful co-host, Miss Mermaid herself, Miss Meeks Kali. How are you, my dear? Yeah.
Hello, doing lovely.
Did you just listen right now? That was cute. That was adorable.
I was embodying.
These intros are
It's
getting
no
better
lie.
and better. You know, the views might be going down, but the intros are getting better and better. These people are really missing out.
They're missing out. They're gonna catch on later, though.
She's slamming, you guys.
Give it entrance.
Oh, right. On this 29th episode now, ooh, we got to do something for number 30. But yeah, this is number 29 we're on. 29. So on episode 29, we wanted to come at you guys really hard with this border crisis thing that, again, I can't speak for Miss Kali, but I can almost assume that she doesn't watch much of the mainstream media news as I do not. So I don't know what they're telling you guys on the news. I do. All I know is what I see and what's kind of being oozed out. So anything that's being oozed out is obviously something that's being main-faced in one way, shape, or form. Another thing that's been put out into the woodworks has been the Asian hate things. So we're going to kind of dive into a little bit, hardcore into the immigration crisis that's happening right now at the border, and how they actually coincide with all the sideline things that are happening, like the Asian hate that's been trending, right, and the George Floyd protests that have been revamped recently. And even more unfortunate, the mass shootings. As of an hour ago, Miss Kali and I have discovered that there was another mass shooting in Boulder, Colorado. This is, I should date it, March 22nd, Monday. So this just happened maybe an hour ago, another mass shooting. And it's interesting that we have gone, I think 3 or 4 years, definitely the last, since COVID started, where the mass shootings have just been silenced. So it's just a little bit interesting timing that we are suddenly thrown back into this woodworks that we're not safe anywhere, aside from having COVID now. So yeah, so let's dive into it. I don't know. I don't know where you stand on immigration. You actually have a little bit more. You have a more of a heart and a way of putting things than I do. You're softer about it. You have a more understanding, gracious way of going about things. Me, I'm not. I'm the borders because we can't help you guys right now. Go away. Yeah. You say it better than me. Say it nice.
Well, I think on a past cast, we likened it to a household and a marriage, and that you just have to be mindful of who you let into that partnership, because otherwise it's just a unknown variable and a liability to have those people in your, household and intimate, immediate family, essentially. And that's what a country is, in essence, as we are, a collective, common good. And so we have an accountability to each other. So we can't just allow anyone to enter our inner sanctums that aren't going to hold that same accountability and responsibility and respect for the commonality. And not to say that immigrants are automatically not going to be, like, some immigrants are more American than most Americans that are just born with a sense of entitlement and obliviousness to their Americanness, so, like a lot of people from other countries know more about America than we do, and part of it's because of our public school system, part of it's just because, people are just trying to get by, and we're, just so tunnel vision focused on our day-to-day duties and needs. Part of it is because we have this, global collective, global village kind of culture through social media, that we don't quite see the borders the same way, that people don't have an allegiance or nationalism necessarily to America as they may have used to. So your partnership, just because you're born American, doesn't even still mean that you have that same commitment to America that an immigrant would. But a nation needs for everyone in that nation that's benefiting from it to have that same commitment in order for it to flourish to its utmost. And that's all we're saying about immigration.
I
So whether you're already here and you're selling us out to other countries, or whether you're coming in and like leaking, or you're coming in and investing, like there's a whole spectrum of what the potentiality of the human relationship to country, man and country, where that like crux is. And each person has, that's one of our divine rights, or human rights amongst each other as a human species, is to be able to claim a nation for ourselves. We get to say where our motherland is, where we belong to, whether it's by birthright of being born on that land at the time of us coming like earthside through the womb portal, or through your ethnicity, because maybe like your mother was traveling, to another place and you were born on a land that wasn't necessarily your motherland. Like that's for you to decide of where you hail from and who you have an allegiance to, of where you're going to invest and have that circuit of energy between human and land and heaven from. So immigration basically is either going to bleed a nation, or it's going to, fortify it. And we're constantly like struggling with that balance with each person that enters into this contract with this nationhood. So the border has that kind of like, as a portal and gateway, has that that like powder keg kind of like energy potential of having to determine what's the flow and the how, what our boundaries are. And that's how we assert like, this is your energy, this is mine, is by having those boundaries. And if we don't, then something can be depleted or consumed. So in order for America to survive, we need for it not to be consumed either from inner or outer forces.
Right.
Whether it's an environmental attack of like outward energies, people, immigrants coming in, or a cancer within the nation that's eating it from the inside out. Either way, America won't stand much longer if either of those is playing out. And currently, in our present climate, we're seeing both.
They're both playing out. Yeah.
Is how I would put it. Yeah.
You're absolutely right. You're 100% on that. But both are happening at one time. And
Right.
and back to boundaries and borders, they go both ways. We cannot illegally enter any other country without
Right.
facing consequences.
Right.
And that's something that we all need to remember. As Americans, we have this false idea of what a humanitarian is, or this idea of what it means to be the good guy in certain situations. And
Mm-hmm.
our first example of how that backfired against us was our reaction to 9/11. When 9/11, as soon as 9/11 happened, our reaction was, that's why we need to stop letting these people into the country. We need to close all our borders. We need to make sure that nobody gets in. They're coming in from Mexico. They're coming in from there. These damn Middle Easterns, this and that.
Mm-hmm.
We as nationalists are concerned, we were the worst type of nationalists back then.
Right.
Worst kind ever. We were American,
ugly colors,
but like dick about it, like
right.
dick, like racist dicks about it.
Mm-hmm.
And back then, sort of understandably so, we were in a state of panic, a state of fear, given that we were attacked on our own soil. Our armed forces, being the Pentagon, was attacked. Any natural human reaction is going to be, I'm going to be afraid of what just attacked me. And thank God, as a nation, it didn't last very long, because we are not a racist country. We just had to come back to our senses. So the idea that security and border closures go hand in hand is not in any way, shape, or form itself racist and or anti-immigration. Because if it wasn't that way 21 years ago and during 9/11, nothing's changed. It shouldn't be that way now. Security at the border is non-existent right now. Let's put it that way. Right. So whatever we were afraid of during 9/11 or right after 9/11, we should be even more afraid of even now.
Right.
With technology being the way it is, there's so many potentials. There's so many potentials. If we thought 9/11 was bad, well, how did they calculate getting all these planes and getting this and that? Like, can you imagine what the type of damage they can do now? Given even given the fact that the media itself has the power to shut people down. So anybody that's whistleblowing or even giving a warning can easily just be shut off like that. And we're screwed. We're effed. You know what I mean? So it's just,
they've been warning us and prepping us for cyber attacks that like we're more vulnerable and our guard is like infinitely more down.
Right.
You know,
they've also been encouraging currency. They've also been encouraging cashless society, and they're all hand in hand. We're going to build up to one, or just for it to fall, and be prepared. That's basically the point of this podcast, is trying to call out the red flags and make sure that we don't pull out the white ones. We fight until the very end, you know. So yeah, but back to the immigration thing. Like, if it's safety and security that we're concerned about, the same way we were concerned about at 9/11, that shouldn't be a racial issue here or there. There's nothing anti-immigrant about it. It's anti-illegal immigration is what I consider myself to be. Anti-illegal human trafficking, and all human trafficking is illegal, and almost globally it's illegal. So I mean, I have numbers here. The human traffickers currently, as of January, February, March, and these numbers came out last month, the month of February 2021, $14 million a day is what the human traffickers make in revenue. $14 million a day to bring these people into this country. And again, they're not coming from Mexico. A lot of people like to put that misconception out there that they're just coming from one country. They're coming from that entire region of Central and South America is being flooded in here. And again, there is violence, there is cartels, there are things that are happening in those other countries, much the same. There's many things that are happening in Middle Eastern countries. So refuge, where people who seek refuge should be able to find it. So that's neither here nor there when it comes to that. However, this country itself, the United States of America, isn't in it to help people. There's no humanitarian involvement in what's going on here. We are making money hand over fist by letting these people come into this country. I'm sorry, I can't even say letting these people. Or I guess I can say letting. That's exactly what they're doing.
It's been an invite.
Come to this country, not just that, but where are they getting these kids from? Where are they getting these kids from? Teenagers. The 3,000 teenage boys are sitting in an overflow facility, and as of right now, they've been there for 2 weeks. And legally, these children are not supposed to be held over 72 hours before being sent back or reuniting with somebody who is going to be able to take care of them via like a CPS service type thing. And it's just, no, I don't hear the outrage for it. There's pictures that have been leaked recently of these children sleeping under those silver astronaut foil blankets or whatever they are.
Right.
They're not even, you get treated better in jail. Just so you guys are aware, not by much, but in jail you get a blanket, a real one. I should know. Like, it's true. I mean, these kids, these are babies. These are innocent people, innocent human beings, innocent children being treated worse than criminals, worse than criminals in the American jail system right now. It's sad.
It's sickening.
It's sick. It's sick.
And where's the outrage, like you said?
And
our selective outrage is
where's AOC? Where's AOC? She was so bitchy about it the last 4 years. Where the hell is she right now? How are we not seeing these things, you guys? How are we not seeing the hypocrisy now? When is everybody going to say, fuck Joe Biden? Look at that racist. Look what he's doing. Look at how he's treating these people.
Right.
I haven't heard it one time. In fact, I hear people making excuses for him.
Right.
And himself making excuses. I've only been here 6 weeks. Cut me a break, man. I've only been here 6 weeks. Cut me a break. You've been in office for 41 fucking years.
Right.
What break do you need, fella? 78 years old. We elected this man, or, we elected this man.
He was VP. If he was going to do something, he would have done something.
Yeah, right. I forgot about the 8 years that he was in office as a vice president. Yeah. Forgot about that. Huh.
Wrong. How about who built the cages, Joe?
The cages, Joe. Oh my God. If nothing else, that man deserves a gold alone. Who built the cages, Joe?
My favorite was when he made that the Wi-Fi password for the press at one of the speaking at one of the debates. He made the Wi-Fi password. Who built the cages joke for all the press to have to type in.
Oh my God. He's my favorite troll in the world. Come on. Come on.
Troll master.
It's funny if nothing else. But he's also very presidential, very constitutional.
My other favorite sidebar was the Fauci pitch. I know he did it back to back with his pitch videos on Twitter.
They had to get rid of him. I don't blame them.
I don't blame them now. That wasn't working for them.
Yeah, he was too good, man. He's the funniest president.
He's like the Charlie of that whole system.
But it's true. They're completely silent now. They haven't said a damn word about what's going on over there. Kamala Lala Ding Dong was asked if she was going to go to see what's going on, and she basically laughed in a reporter's face, like scoffing.
Oh wow!
The arrogance of these people. Well, I don't even know if these kids are being fed. Last I read that they get to shower once a week, or something ridiculous like that. The COVID cases there's at least 50 plus positive COVID cases in that facility with the teenage boys. It's just I don't understand it. I just don't understand how nobody is making the same deal. And I was 4 years ago, I was right there with everybody else. Are you fucking kidding me? Why is he doing this? Why are they in these cages? Are you crazy? And it wasn't until later that I started to understand exactly where the history of the cages and the history of how child and human trafficking actually is absolutely 100% rampant in our country. I've always known that it was in Africa and Rwanda and the Middle East and places like that. Right. I never ever knew it was right here, right under
our soil. No.
So bad, so bad the way it is. And they're doing it right in front of our faces now. They're doing it right in front of us. And we have nothing to say about it. No one's
like our silence is consent. Like they report on it just enough to make us like, you guys, this is happening, but you don't care, Right. Like Melania's whole, like, I don't care, do you?
Wow. She was not wrong, was she? What a creepy thing what a cryptic, and I don't know the story behind that or why she wore it, but come on. She would, I mean, we don't care. I don't care, do you? Like, and that was in regards to the immigration thing. That was all that. That was the
They focused it on her of like, oh, can you believe that she feels that way? In regard, like she might be a horrible person. I don't know enough about her to speak to that extent, like where she was coming from necessarily with that. Like, does she really not, I don't care? Or was she just saying that as a statement to like lead into the next thing? Who knows? But the point of the do you and what ripple effect that could have had among us and what it did have of instead of, everybody taking accountability of like, yeah, that's subhuman treatment that we're putting on children. Let's do something about that, assess our resources and where we're investing in and address that. We could have responded in that way, but instead we were like, can you believe this chick? This is me.
Like, but who's actually believing that these parents are voluntarily sending these children? 3,000 unaccounted for teenagers? 3,000? These parents are not willingly sending these kids out here. They're being taken, they're being recruited, they're being paid or being promised something false.
Right.
This is outright disgusting. And it was at an all-time low. And there was a stop being put to it for a good solid year and a half, which is probably why it was so undiscovered, to me until recently. So it's just we have the overflow facilities are at 729%, over 729% capacity. I don't even know how that's a real number. 729% over capacity.
During COVID, even.
I can't even fathom that being a number.
It seems like a clown car thing or Mary Poppins bag. Like that's not humanly possible.
It's not. How are they sleeping? Where are they using the restroom? There are obviously, I mean, for that many people to be held up somewhere, somebody's going to get sick. Someone's bound to spread sickness. You know, it's
just thinking of Katrina with the like this, whatever their center, like Staples Center type thing that they had. I forget where it was, that they had everybody convening, and obviously they didn't have, you know, proper measures to like, and countless people got sick and died, you know, like people were just laid out dead in that. So I imagine, you know, what numbers they're covering of who's, you know, dying in these facilities too, due to
oh no, yeah, those numbers, we'll never see those numbers.
Yeah,
we'll never see those numbers. And it's funny you mentioned Katrina, because somebody equated this is Joe Biden's Katrina, and I can't remember who said it.
Oh wow.
I don't, but I heard it in passing. This is Joe Biden's Katrina, his very own Hurricane Katrina, because of what he's because of what he's not what he's contributing, or his lack thereof, you know, as far as contributions are concerned, you know. So yeah, it's so funny you mentioned Katrina. As far as on the other side of the immigration crisis, which again, we don't watch mainstream news, so I don't know what exactly they're telling you guys. So if we told you guys anything new, that's awesome. I do understand that the news has a way of making sure that you're never at ease, that you never have a moment to be like, oh, okay, well that's okay. So aside from the immigration crisis, we do have, as we mentioned, the sudden revamp of the George Floyd protests.
Right, and Breonna Taylor, they had the anniversary of that as well.
We had a recent fire in Portland, Oregon, because of the protests, where people were actually inside of the city hall or federal building.
Oh, yeah.
And they lit it on fire and pretty much basically kind of locked them in. So the media is very powerful. It's very, very, very powerful, and it's evident by the fact that we were quiet for the last few months, and then all of a sudden, maybe it was the anniversary that may have struck certain things. Has there been other things in the news, or other like recent police involved shootings? I've seen videos, but I don't know if they're recent or if they're just videos that have been viral from the past. But
I haven't heard a major headline like George Floyd of last year, but there definitely seems to be an overshadowing of, you know, Women's History Month, that they're really focusing it on all these racial divides.
Oh yeah. Well, you know, the thing about Women's History Month is that when we try to focus on it, it really backfired on them, because men try to take it over.
Right.
And I guess because women weren't going to have that, let's ignore you guys. And you remember George Floyd? Let's hate everybody. Right. So I think that's what happened with that, if I'm being honest. Most women laughed at the idea of trying to include transgender men in today's Women's History Month. Good for us. Good for us. Most of us have our heads on right. You know what I mean? It helps to have popped a few babies out too. You know what I mean? I think that convinces a woman more than anything how much a woman she really is. So, you know, good for us. And again, that was swept under the rug. Women's History Month, go bye-bye, because again, who gives a shit about women who are strong and opinionated and sure of themselves?
Me too. It's not your time. Even with the Gold Spa shooting in Atlanta, the focus was that they were Asian American, not that they were women.
They were sex workers.
Yeah,
that was his motive. His motive was not racial. The media made it racial. His motive was, he had, I believe this gentleman, and I may be wrong, so this is all alleged, but I believe the gentleman either had a sex addiction and kind of went nuts, and or was not a fan of sex workers, and that massage parlor happened to be one of those places, a happy ending place. Mm-hmm. So that was his motive for attacking it. Again, not right. If he's I imagine by now he's arrested, right? Or in custody, or dead, or wherever the situation is. His comeuppance are his comeuppance. He broke the law. He's a criminal. He's disgusting. And I hope, you know, he gets what he deserves. But yeah, the whole push was, oh man, now we hate Asians. Like, well, when did that happen? Like, when all of a sudden now we hate Asians? What the hell? And they try to equate it back to China virus, to Donald Trump. Everything goes back to Donald Trump now. You know what I mean? So it snowballed into this very unnecessary idea of it's just completely unnecessary. None of it is real. None of it is real. So it's just, and I really don't mean to sound insensitive, but it really isn't. None of it.
We have to call out the absurdities of it. Otherwise, we just spin ourselves into this like web of PC.
Right.
nonsense. Like, is cancel culture going to rename the Spanish flu because that's offensive now? Like, are we going to rewrite the history books about all this? And I understand how you can antagonize or like target certain people by having a certain narrative. So if you were outright to call it the China virus, that does like explicitly like point attention towards a certain people. And we do have history of like internment camps, you know, during World War II and things like that. So each, you know, sect of people has their own history of racism and how like our role in America and in the global setting. And it, you know, we're all struggling with, you know, asserting the reality against those narratives. But divide and conquer is, you know, like it's the art of war. It's their like MO, problem, reaction, solution. And so we have to start to like have the bird's eye view to see these patterns playing out so that we don't get whipped into the emotional frenzy of just like wave after wave of traumatic event that we're just pulled into like, oh no, this happened, I'm sad, and now I feel this way about it, and I'm going to do this because this is what I'm told is going to be the fixer for this thing. And they play on this like white man's burden of thinking that all these other races are in some way disparate to them, that even gives them this like dynamic in a society to feel separated or other than the
Right.
other minorities. So it's like the less that we describe things like that, like as we just had Black History Month, you know, in February, when I teach, you know, Black History Month to my son, I don't come at it from the sense of like Martin Luther King and civil rights and things like that. I just find representation of melanated people that are doing great things, because he doesn't need that like mentality of like other people hate me because of my skin tone.
Yep.
What
That's
is
right.
that going to do for like, you know,
Bullshit.
a grade schooler? What
Bullshit.
does that like I remember, you know, being a child and being told, okay, like the world, like Christian, like religion hates you because you're a woman, and Eve and the apple, like bad job, like they hate you because you're Black, they hate you because you're white, like these are all the bad things that you did,
Yeah.
you know, and this and what you get to be raised in, instead of just having like representations of great masculinity, representations of great femininity, representations of great, you know, every culture and ethnicity. And instead we try to keep victim shaming and like compartmentalizing racism in this divide and conquer sense, like even with the Asian American like uptick in attacks, like there has been, and it's like more Asian Americans, there's been footage of like random, especially elderly Asian Americans being shoved on the street for apparently no reason other than that they're Asian American. Like it was a clearly targeted attack that somebody won. It's kind of like the I forget what challenge it was, but the shove over challenge or whatever, where they were pushing random elderly people a couple of years ago and like posting it online. So it's like one of those things, but specifically seems to be targeted at Asian Americans. But from like police reports in San Francisco, they found that 85% of the attacks were from African Americans or Blacks. And so 85% is like a huge percentage for, so it's basically being Black on Asian crime in San Francisco, but they can't like address that narrative or that issue or that concern or that like discord in those communities in San Francisco, because they have to protect this like Breonna Taylor, George Floyd narrative, because we haven't reached the anniversary of George Floyd. That's in May. So we're like still building up to that. I'm sure we're going to, I mean, Biden also said we're going to have the vaccine by May. So they have a whole song and dance planned for us.
You're right. Get ready, because you're right. May is going to be an interesting month.
It's going to be an interesting month. And then June and July, and we're like going to have our summer swept from us of what that all means. Like all this COVID, you know, get your show your vax card and get all these benefits type things that they're introducing into, you know, rewarding vaccinated people and all these things that they're another divide and conquer tactic. And everybody's kind of like picking their teams and, you know, choosing their sides. And it kind of feels like the Warriors, how, you know, like everybody collected in their own little gangs at this like meeting, and then Cyrus got assassinated, who was like the leader of all the gangs. And I feel like they're priming us for that, of like, Joe Biden's protecting the Black community and the George Floyd and BLM, you know, in this way, and he's protecting the border in this way, but don't talk about, but this is what he's doing, and this is how he's protecting Asian Americans. And then, you know, he stumbled down the stairs going up to, you know, that he had a hard time walking upstairs, you know, like that's concerning. That's concerning for, you know, the leader of the free. It was a hard time. Yeah,
He didn't even do it once, he did it 3 times. He went whoop. Okay. Oh man.
Poor guy. But okay, yeah, so like, who, you know, like a lot of elderly people, that's what, you know, like, I've fallen and I can't get up, like that's a big deal to fall, like that's a dangerous like state to be in where you're falling, you know, like, because there's a lot of hard things everywhere, like that makes you vulnerable. So he's demonstrating that he's in that space of the capability, you know, and that's concerning. So if something were to happen to him and he's the supposed like leader, protector of all these different sects that are apparently like butting heads, and there's only one thing keeping them at bay, like when you're like, you know, breaking up a fight, and then for him to fall, like we're primed and ready for this to swoop into something. And we also are having this, you know, and you know, not to say that there hasn't been racial injustice to Asian Americans, because again, internment camps, but also in, as 1984 has alluded to, and as like, if you're studying the global waves of things and how their nations rise and fall, like America is the second Rome. You know, a lot of nations have a span of 250 years where they have a certain like iteration of them. And, you know, 1776, like when, you know, 2026, we're coming on our 250 years here. That's like 5 years away, you guys. And like our economy is this bubble that's being filled, like inflated even more with this digital currency, you know, fiasco, basically, that we're like priming to pop. We're preparing for the fall of America, and world global powers know that America is falling. The only people that are oblivious to it are Americans. Right. And we're behaving as like America first, like, you know, like America's number one, we're number one. Like that's been so ingrained in us since for the last 40, you know, 50 years that we feel too big to fall since beating World War II, saving the world, you know, that they were suffering from Hitler, but we saved the world and defeated Hitler in America. You know, Uncle Sam needs you, Rosie the Riveter, it's all of us, you know, like they pumped us full of this narrative that we've been like fueling on ever since. But the global powers that like remember when America was born, you know, like not the peoples, but like China remembers America being born. UK remembers America being born, you know,
but
like
we're a baby country.
We're a baby country, and
we
we're
don't have
a Rome.
to speak of. We don't have none of that.
We're like the.
I mean, it's chilling what you just said, because China's seen this played out so many times over. I can imagine.
They know us better than we know ourselves, and we're the big man on campus where we don't realize that like the real world on the other side of like, you know, graduation that we're coming up against, you know, big fish little pond kind of thing. And this 250-year mark is like, we've been an adolescence as a country, and so we as a people, even though we're adulting and we're grown-ups and like have, you know, like doctors and lawyers and all these kinds of things, as a country and a community, you know, acting as a nation, we're in our adolescence turning into an adulthood at this 250-year mark. And it's up to us how much accountability and responsibility we're going to take on for our country. And we're showing our true colors, our ugly, gritty true colors right now with how we're treating our border and these children and these immigrants, how we're allowing these racial divides, how we're allowing our election to be run, how we're allowing our president and, you know, political officials to behave, Cuomo, you know, Newsom. Like, it's not looking good for how this transition, it's going to play out one of two ways, you know, like we're coming to a crossroads at this 250-year mark, which is 5 years off basically. And it's up to us how we steer this. And luckily there are a lot of people that are, you know, being patriots, however that's being colored, but are trying to call attention and like notice the red flags, as we're saying, and not wave the white ones, as we've way of putting it. And yeah, but they, you know, like there is also this narrative that's preparing for China to be the next superpower, to be the new America in the global theater of it, you know, and other countries are seeing that, they know it, you know, the dollar's following, they're preparing their currencies for it. So like, we can't have such a narrow mind of like George Floyd, you know,
Right.
like, not to be insensitive, but there's bigger things at play. If
Yes.
you want for your house and to be able to like go to work and eat, come home and eat dinner with your family, in order to protect that, you have to pay attention to how like America stands in the global field of things. And China knows, they're preparing, they're not letting their men be emasculated, they're not letting all these chemicals be in the water supply, that they're not defending trans rights. That's not their main focus during Women's History Month, you know, of theirs, whatever, you know, like,
You're preaching right now.
I'm preaching. I'll get off my soapbox.
I'm with you on every single bit of this. And I mean, you see, I'm with you. We're brats. We're absolutely spoiled, which is why we get to sit here and bitch and moan about Dr. Seuss and what Cardi B's wearing and what
Aunt Jemima, I'm offended.
This is, we're too comfortable. We're brats, and we need so desperately to feel uncomfortable and feel victimized for some reason, this and that and the other. That's where we're going with it. And
but Meghan Markle, let's feel bad for her for a bit, for a month.
And bringing back George Floyd, you see, here's the thing: if he was in fact the most innocent man on earth, my God, yes, please, let's you know, bust out the red carpet, give him 15 funerals for that matter. This man was a criminal. He was doing something wrong. He there's so much about that isn't being reported, or that isn't being even recognized about that story alone, which makes it so frustratingly what's the word? Just frustrating. It just makes it so frustrating to understand that people have poured their hearts and souls into protesting and have gone to jail and have you know, destroyed cities like you know, mine,
Right.
My own backyard is still trying to recoup from BLM last summer. You know what I mean? Like there's so much of that going on, and I understand having passion. I understand I'm a passionate person about the shit I believe in. But this man did nothing good for anybody but himself. That's who we deem heroic. This is who we're fighting for. Like Miss Meeks Kali said, we're going to fight for trans people who are doing nothing for anybody in society but themselves. Look at me. Pay attention to me. Look,
my comfort, my pleasure.
Be proud of me with me. That's where our heads are at right now. That's so frustrating to me.
You're not proud enough of that.
And we wait our turn to be victimized, and or wait our turn to say, I'm proud and I'm this and I'm that. Great. Do your thing. Be proud.
Right.
You know, why can't we all just, and again, this is taken nationalism. It has its own varying definition. 9/11 nationalism is not what I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. Nationalism of actual legit equality, and it doesn't mean financial equality, it doesn't mean necessarily racial equality, just human equality, American equality, where we can just sit there and be like, I'm an American, you're an American, we're not being really free right now, let's kind of fight for that together. I don't give a shit what's in your pants. Right. I can care less how what you put on your body as far as clothes are concerned. None of that matters. What matters is that we have to be in this fight together. There's so much hyperbole that Joe Biden said in his speech the other day that does ring true. We are in this together. We can't do this alone. He does need us. And the truth is, he needs us, because without us, there would be no him. He's dead in the water. We don't have to worry about Joe Biden, to be honest. It's Kamala that we have to worry about.
Right. He's reading from a prompter. He's just saying what he said. He doesn't. I don't even know what I'm signing right now.
He's done. Okay, so you know, whether you voted for him or not, good for you. Your voice was heard. Yay! But you know what?
Elections.
2 months. Elections over. Kamala won. But yeah, like it's, and the other thing you mentioned, and going back to the illegal immigration, is you mentioned how you so wisely raise your son not to have this idea of him being a melanated human as oppressed, or as I'm somebody's enemy. I'm not gonna. You're not letting your son be born with the idea that somebody hates him, or that he's somebody's enemy. And by
it's going to be harder for him to succeed. What does that benefit him?
Right. Just certain historical figures. You know, on the other side of that, my dad actually did teach us about our own MLK, Cesar Chavez. Mm-hmm. Cesar Chavez is the voice for a lot of the protests that are happening now, especially for the illegal immigration. Right. However, he was absolutely 100% against illegal immigration. He fought for American unions while he was here. and fought against illegal immigration, so much so that he actually hired goons in order to beat the shit out of coyotes that are trying to bring people in illegally back then.
Nice.
He was a hero to us.
Wow.
And the reason being is because he understood that no matter where, and I don't have the exact quote, but basically, if you live in a country that borders a poorer country, you will always 100% find a citizen who's going to do the same work you do for less. Always 100%. And the only way to stop that is by stopping the bleed from both sides, which is exactly what you said earlier. And right now we are bleeding it from both ends of the country right now. And it's insane that to have somebody back then, he wasn't, Cesar Chavez was not born here, he was born in Mexico. So he wasn't, he became a legalized citizen, naturalized citizen, legalized citizen. I forgot what the term is. Mm-hmm. But he, you know, he was, again, completely staunch against illegal immigration. Legal immigration is different, obviously. No one's saying don't come here legally. No one's saying that at all. Come here and work your ass off the same way everybody else is. And the truth is, I have not met one person, legal or illegal, that doesn't work their ass off. Right. Personally speaking, I have not met somebody on either end that doesn't get up in the morning and say, I need to make my ass some money because I'm here in this country now and I need to make sure that, you know, personally speaking, I'm not saying they don't exist, but thank God, you know, I'm almost like on the positive end that anybody who comes here, whether they're legal or illegal, for the most part, they're going to do what they can to either get money for themselves or get money for their people back home. But either way, that money is being redistributed and recirculated into our economy one way or another. So I mean, you can't knock somebody for doing their best and trying to do what they can here. Again, whether they're legal or illegal, you're illegal. You made it here. You do what you got to do. More power to you. You know, I mean, there's really no way around it. But again, what's happening here and what's happening now is out of control, and there's no way that we're going to gain that control back if we as people don't put a stop to it by asking questions, just the simplest questions. Why are these kids in these cages? That alone is the simplest way to go about it. Because what's going to happen is when we have 22 million illegal citizens, illegal residents in the country now. When these illegal residents gain their amnesty and they become legal citizens in one way or another, which will happen within the next year and a half, they will then become legal voters. What happens then is that the majority of these people will vote for Democrats, which is a facto at the end of the day is what the Democrats want. They want permanent power. And the only way they're going to gain that permanent power is if they have the majority vote. And I think that's the bigger end of the plan. And I think, and I don't think that's a thought or a theory. I think that's actually what the goal is because the majority of anybody that's a minority votes Democrat. You know,
it's what we've been trained to do for decades.
Exactly, and that's
the party of the minority. Yeah,
that doesn't change. And the truth is, I don't know. Talk about your major backfire because this last election, a lot of minorities voted Republican. You know, Cubans got heat for voting Republican. A lot of people from Venezuela who are legal citizens got heat because they're from socialist countries and they understand if voting Democrat would mean steps closer to what they just left in their own country. So you know, good for genius. They're right up there. You know what I mean? It's us who don't understand where we come from with it. It's us who don't seem to see the future when it comes to what socialism actually is and what it actually does. Myself included. I've never experienced it personally, right. but I believe the people who have. Mm-hmm. I take them at their word, without a doubt. Just like I would take anybody from any other any Central South American country. If your country's violent and you need to come here, I believe you. Nobody's saying you're going to come here because you want to be lazy or you want to start a gang or you know what I mean. Like I believe.
Don't stay in danger. Go someplace. Like come some. If this is a safe place, then come safe place.
Exactly. But again, that's not what's happening now. And us as Americans need to be awake and we need to understand that this giant push and this giant caravan of people coming in that was such an outrage and uproar when Donald Trump was president and is being silent now is one, being done on purpose, and two, not being done for the benefit of those people coming in. Somebody's getting paid big bucks for these people, and what they're doing with them is the biggest question and the most fearful one I have that I cannot answer.
We haven't heard anything about Ghislaine Maxwell lately.
Right. Is she even still in jail? Or is she back working again? Right.
And, you know, her and Epstein weren't the only, you know, Epstein. There's countless others that are the same heads
Also,
of such
right.
organizations and outfits. So
Also, the fact that he, oh shoot, I lost my train of thought. It was about the child trafficking thing. Dang, I'll get it back. I'll get it back. Dang. Yeah, I forgot. Dang, we were on such a good roll.
but it's a big industry, and you know, where it's a shame that the Me Too and the Save the Children movements are so silenced, and that like Twitter and or Instagram were hiding the Save the Children or blocking the Save the Children hashtag, so that, you know, for protected content, because it was, you know, misleading or whatever.
I remember.
Yeah.
Okay. The thing that chills me about this, and again, like you were just mentioning, how they were trying to block the Save the Children and all the hashtags, and Pizzagate is real,
Right.
child trafficking is real, all of those, they really did. They legit tried to fucking ban those from actually being from going viral. Joe Biden, what was it? A couple months ago, was asked about the situation in China with the Uyghurs, and he didn't say much about it. Do you remember? Do you remember his quote? I don't know his quote, but it was basically, basically he didn't have much to say, and that people in that country do things differently, and then he's just he washes his hands of the way they do things in that country.
Yeah, he quoted cultural differences, that you can't judge another country's concentration camps because of cultural differences.
So in other words, he absolutely 100% supports concentration camps, which absolutely makes me wonder why or where these people are going and what he's going to do with them. Because as far as we know, and as far as it's been as confirmed as possible, given that it's coming from Chinese news sources, which are very limited, the Uyghurs are experiencing mass genocide right now. That entire community is being wiped out, and unbeknownst to the American people, because we're so busy fighting for transgender rights. So it's just interesting that a lot of these things are playing out, not just COVID. And I remember when we were going down that rabbit hole, that we thought maybe the FEMA camps were going to be exposed and they were going to be open, and, you know, we're going to have to be, you know, the forced vax and this and that. Now I'm thinking, you know, on the other end of that is that if these camps and these migrant facilities are open, is this phase one of what they're going to do to the rest of the country in the next coming years, be it the 2030 agenda? Is this practice?
It's like that. I forget a quote that we read on the a couple casts ago about how they from World War II and the Holocaust, he's like, they came for this people or the nationalists, and I didn't say anything because I wasn't a nationalist. They came for this, and I didn't say anything because I wasn't and then they came for me, and there was no one to speak for me. And so that's where they're, you know, starting to encroach. They're establishing these camps. They're creating, you know, problem reaction solution. They're creating a need for it. They're getting our consent of like, oh yeah, you should build these camps. You should build these check centers. We should build, you know, even with COVID, to encourage like vax places.
Yeah, in the last few months, the Border Patrol has built even more facilities. And just in the last few months, the overflow facilities, they built even more, which is just, you know, you're building more because you're expecting more people to come in. No, you're deliberately bringing people in. You're not expecting these people to come in. Not just was the invitation extended. People are being pushed into this country. Trafficked. They're being trafficked. And people are getting paid heavy amounts of dollars for this. And I just wonder how much of a hand our government has in it, aside from opening the floodgates, literally. It's interesting, it's chilling, it's scary. And again, I want to encourage you guys to just ask questions about what's going on. Why if the same outrage and the same questions you had for Donald Trump when he was putting these kids in cages, supposedly, you should be asking them now, even more so. The numbers, I mean, they can't even hide the numbers anymore. It's gotten so ridiculous. They can't even hide, they tried so hard for like the last 4 or 5 days to not call it a border crisis. I think it wasn't until like this past Sunday morning, they finally used the term border crisis. Excuse me. And it just,
they danced around it, for a long time before. They're trying to,
They did. You know, it's just, I'm pray for these people, pray for these kids. Honestly, like we don't have to know, you don't have to know somebody to pray for them. You know, we don't, you know, as insensitive as I come off a lot of times, I do my best not to, but you know, come on, man, it is what it is. Sometimes things are what they are, and if something's, you know, call a spade. That we don't get that anymore. The news doesn't give you that anymore. I mean, at least somebody here is trying their best. So I apologize again for being insensitive, but I do have a heart. We do have a heart, and my heart breaks for these kids. I can't imagine my kids being in a place like that without their parents, without me, without their dad. I can't imagine it. And,
No
and
insight.
there's parents in an entirely different country, probably scared shitless and worried about their own. I honestly can't imagine. So let's start asking questions. Let's start asking what's the agenda here? What's the motive? Where are they going to go? Where are we going to put them? Who's going to pay for it? You know who's going to pay for it. That question doesn't need to be asked. We're going to pay for it. Bleeding from both sides. I'm so happy you put it that way. Like, but I mean, let's
appreciate our stimulus, though. Never mind the tax increase and the gas pricing and all that. You know.
Oh yeah, gas.
The For the People's Act.
Yeah.
But see how this plays out over the next 5 to 10 years. Money well spent.
Yeah. Just stay focused. Prepare for more mass shootings. Prepare for more reasons to bring up George Floyd again. I mean, I think they're going to trial or they're in court right now for the Devin, whatever his name is. I forgot that.
Oh yeah, that's right.
I don't know if he was acquitted or whatnot, but I know there's going to be some anger and probably blood drawn once that's all said and done. So be prepared. Just be aware of distractions. Be aware of ways that they're going to continue to divide and conquer us, and be aware of ways that they're going to hide this whole doohickey here with the immigration thing. They don't want you to know how many people they actually use and abuse in this country. I myself was shocked by it, and it's so hard to believe. But yeah, at the same time, it's in my face so much.
To give people any indication, you know, we think that, you know, America or the world has a drug problem or a drug like abuse problem, and that's a major trafficking type industry. But with drugs, the person buys it once and it's gone and it's done. But with a human, they can abuse a human in countless ways over and over again until they're all used up, where it's just like a shell or whatever, however they get out of that, you know, through that they die from it or however that they escape it, but because they can't perform in that way. But it's like true. Blood, or it should like irk us to our very soul that is happening on such a grand scale. Like it's the currency behind the currency of money that we're not addressing, that humans are currency, our energy is currency, and the children, like, won't somebody please think of the children? Like there's children that are bred for this, that it's such a commodity. And it's because of all the other ways that we encourage perverse behavior that there's even a customer, a consumer for it. So we need to address what in ourselves is even allowing that to ripple out into like our greater spectrum when we watch certain shows and programmings, when we buy certain music, when we dress certain ways, like when we fight for certain causes and not others. Like we're encouraging certain dynamics in a culture that relates to the use and abuse of humans, like by buying diamonds in the diamond industry. And, you know, and like we need to like be cognizant of the ripple effects of how humans are being used in the backbone of all the other industries. There's a great movie, I forget, it's turned into a TV show. It's like Snow Train or something like that. I'm butchering it. Snowpiercer, I think, but it's about like the last surviving humans, and they're all on this really long train, and like the back cart is like the servant humans, and they're also like killed for food basically, and like eat each other and stuff. And then like as you work up the trains there, it's like higher and higher class, and they have like their garden train and their like meat like curing train, and then they have like their school for the children, and then they have like the rich people, kind of like Hunger Games, how they have the people that have like the opulent, you know, like type of party, and like you know, brothel type train, and so like it gets more and more, and so there's a mutiny in the back, and then they work their way through each of the cars towards the front of the train, and like they experience all the different like spectrums of society, so that exist on the whole of the earth, just in like it's all interwoven and behind closed doors, and like the gold spa and all these things, like they're elements in our society. Like that should be the focal point of our, that's like a need that's arising in the society for people to be investing their sexual energy in such a way, and that, you know, like that's our creation energy. That's what we could be using to aspire to our utmost human potential as a whole of humanity. And like we're so conditioned into this like thought of death and destruction and like this post-apocalyptic world. Like we're so embraced with that we can't imagine the heaven that we could create if we really just like summoned and asserted our powers instead of letting our energy bleed out in taxes to these wars and into, you know, like that should have been the lesson from Donald Trump not paying his taxes, is that taxation is theft. Like that should be the lesson from Melania Trump of I don't care, do you, is that like, yeah, let's not imprison children. Like let's be mindful of how, you know, and if one country wasn't robbing from another and all, you know, it's a bigger picture than the little like bandages that we're trying to put on, little band-aids on the Hoover Dam, cracks in the Hoover Dam, you know, it's going to blow unless we address the real issues. And it's, you know, we got to take our ego out of it and not be like so attached to like the personal insult of everything, or trying to, you know, like appease our guilt towards others because we have a privilege beyond them. Like we need to figure out how to best invest our energies to, you know, rectify these ills of society at large. Right. But we can't, you know, we need to stay vigilant. Like they're intentionally luring us into a false sense of security that things are starting to open up again. Like people are getting more access to the vaccine, like Disneyland's going to open in April, you know, like it's normal again, all preparing us for this like sudden, like, oh, the second wave is like more dangerous and it's affecting not just people with pre-existing conditions, and it's affecting younger, healthier people. And oh no, now this COVID, and now we need this vaccine, and they have a 5-year plan that we could be going on this merry-go-round forever and ever. And anyone who's been like in a toxic relation and finally escaped, like, you know, those patterns, you know how it repeats and it gets better and you get sucked back into it. And like they're doing this to us now as an entire world, as a global society. And we have to break out of the spell of it, but each with our own personal accountability and holding the outer forces accountable to us. Like, what is Joe Biden's responsibility to us? What are they actually doing?
Right. There's another COVID variant as of 9 hours ago in New York City,
Yeah.
by the way. It's so stupid. I just see the headlines and I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, I honestly feel bad for the people that believe it. That believe every word on that news, on the news, every word. I can't imagine the high anxiety that people like that live with on a daily.
Not to say that there's not like airborne illnesses. Who knows what they're, I mean, like we know that there's chemtrails and all this stuff. So not to say that the air isn't poison suddenly and that they couldn't suddenly make it more poison, you know, or not to say that the 5G is suddenly activated and that's having all the effects that people were talking about last year. So not to say like that you should just not be concerned with your health and that like not wearing a mask is your main like protest of defense or rebellion. Like you have to be vigilant about your health regardless, knowing that it could get like nuclear at any second. Who knows? You know, you just have to be on, and you know, at the same time, like living in California as we do, we know that earthquakes are a potential, but we also aren't living day to day, moment to moment, like gripping the table that, oh, there's gonna be, then shakes the table. It's not really happening right now. But you know, we're not like you know, white knuckling it through every day afraid an earthquake's going to happen. We just have to be vigilant that that's a potential, notice the warning signs when it's coming on, and then like do the appropriate protective measures. And so we have to take that type of vigilance with every aspect, with our health and our governments and everything. And so we just need to not pacify ourselves with our entitlements and our emotionalities and our, you know, like our fear. Most of all, they play, you know, Tupac said, fear is stronger than love, you know, and you know, we're proving whether that's right or not. You know, like God is love, and that's the most powerful power of all. So like we are love in essence. And so we're just needing to express that. But the fear is the confusion that we get, you know, tricked into through the double speak of it all. So
But
not to say like when you're listening to the news, not to say that don't listen, like who knows whether there's another variant or not. Like it, the bottom line of it is like being vigilant for yourself, taking care of your health, taking care of making sure that you're, you know, doing your work and not just kicking back and assuming that like everything's gonna be sustainable as is. Like the
exactly, exactly. If you don't take care of your own health, the government's going to do it for you. And who
right.
wants that? I mean, if honestly, if that's what you want, that's kind of where we're headed. But what good has it ever done anybody? And in any historical scenario, what good has having more government done anybody? Just you gotta be on the outside looking in and think of it that way. And that's why we are so adamant about the phrase "stay vigilant" because it means something. Stay vigilant means be aware, be on the outside looking in at all times, but at the same time be in the moment. You know, you have to do all kinds of things at one time, but with practice, it's doable. And as Miss Kali alluded to earlier, is it starts from the inside out. It starts in here and it goes out, you know, externally and just whether it's just asking ourselves, well, whether it's how can I fix a situation, or whether it's why don't I feel as bad as I should, or whether it's, you know, it really just, the question should always start here. When you're offended at something that I say or something I do, is it me offending you, or is it really just something in your gut tugging at you that you don't want to hear and or realize? Because that's how it happened to me. There's a lot of things I didn't want to see, and then child trafficking was one of them. I have children. You know, I don't want to have to think that maybe that there's a potential. And in the 80s, you know, we grew up in the 80s with the milk cartons and the kids on the milk cartons. Right. We've always been told, stay next to me or you're going to get taken. We've always been told that we were going to get kidnapped when we were kids. You know, so it's really nothing.
Want a piece of candy? You know, like, as you're walking up.
It's the severity of how real it is that's scary. It's not the razor blade in the apple on Halloween.
Right.
It's not a myth in that sense. This is heavy stuff. This is real. This is really happening. And I can't sit here and be like, well, it's not happening to American children. It's not happening to my kids, so I can't care. No, man, it's happening to children, regardless of where they come from. And unfortunately, they're coming from a place where however, they're coming from a place where we have to sit here and assume that they're in a much worse situation there than they would be if they were here. So they already have that vulnerability about them, and that vulnerability is being exploited big time for countless amount of people that are coming in. There might be a handful that are going to make it and are actually going to do something with it, but for the majority of these people that are coming in now, it's not going to happen for them. And we're either going to foot the bill, or these people are going to end, their lives are going to end in tragic ways, unnecessarily tragic ways. It's happening it's happening throughout the central train line and central. I think we have a train line from Canada, United States, all the way down to Central South America. So that entire railroad is a blood trail, basically.
Pan-American Railroad. I forget what they call it.
I forgot to, but it's not being reported in American news. Every once in a while, it gets reported in news on Mexican or Spanish TV, Telemundo, and other news resources. But these people are basically being loaded onto trains and being shot at by gunfire. You know, a firing squad. That's real legit shit. Being promised certain things. These people are getting paid tons and tons of money, and this is what they do with the people. This is actually happening. I'm not trying to like fearmonger or like make anybody feel bad. These things are actually happening. And I can imagine what's happening and what's not being reported now with these masses and masses of people. We don't know what we're doing with them. 729% over capacity. 729%. How is that even
unfathomable
possible?
Numbers?
And exactly. I don't understand it. Somebody, like I said, somebody's going to fit the bill, and or these people without any place to go. What else do you do with them with no accountability, no ID? We don't know who they are. Biden doesn't know who they are. People in Mexico and Brazil and Venezuela and other parts of Central America, South America don't know who they are.
Wow.
They're as good as dead. This is scary. This is something that should scare all of us. Because if it's not just, if it was just an immigration issue alone, that should scare us. But with the way things are going, I don't think it's an immigration issue alone. I think this immigration issue is practice for what's to come. I think the Uyghurs was a perfect is a perfect example of what's to come for us, which is why Joe Biden hasn't said much about it in a negative sense. That should be condemned 100% by any leader, especially an American leader, humanitarian as he is, right?
Remember when Obama invested in, what was it, like 500,000 or 5 million guillotines during his presidency?
Oh, that's right. That's right. God, that's right. I forgot all about that. You just gave me the
Where did those go?
Who put the guillotines, Joe? That's not funny, because that is scary, actually, because yes. Oh, man, that's bad. But yeah.
But just in case there's a blackout, don't worry. They've got it. They're ready still.
Wow. Wow. If nothing else, ask questions. Start to ask as many questions as possible. You know, drop the ego. That I think that's probably number one for all of us, myself included. Is when I knew that I knew everything, it turns out I didn't know anything. You know what I mean? And we've been studying this for God knows how many years. So you know, it's okay to be wrong. It's okay to be wrong. Just put it that way. It's okay to be wrong, so long as you do your best, try to make it right. And that's all I think that we're trying to do here. And again, can I personally solve the immigration issue? Nah, probably not. But I can spread the word. We can actually ask questions. We can open a dialogue. We can get a grassroots movement going. We can do what we can. I mean, as you see in California alone, we have the power of numbers as far as recalls are concerned. So it's not like our voices don't get heard. It's not like it's an impossibility. The insurrection a couple weeks ago did nothing for us, and it was done by a bunch of hack criminals. But can you imagine if we as people did something similar to that, like, and kind of took it back to like revolutionary days? Would have been kind of cool. You know what I mean? But you know, I don't know. I'm just all I can do is continue to encourage everybody to just stay focused and vigilant and ask questions. Now's the time. If not about the illegal immigration issues, COVID. It's been a year. Ask why it's been a year and why nothing's changed. Ask what's going to happen. You know, as Disneyland's going to open, like Miss Kali said. Yes, Disneyland's open, but you got to get your vaccine first.
Gotcha.
That's next. So you know, it's. You saw the Krispy Kreme thing I sent you earlier, where you know, show us your vaccine card, and you know, and we'll give you a free donut.
Free donut.
Free donut. By the way, that's so illegal. By the way, that's super like violation of privacy, HIPAA type thing. So whatever you do, do not show your damn vaccination card for a free donut, because they're breaking the law and you're breaking the law. And actually, if you do, you can actually sue them and get all the donuts in the world. But yeah, so that's super illegal. Cream should not be doing that. That's super, super legal. Anyway, so yeah, I think we're going to wrap it up. As always, I had a wonderful time in this episode. It was a little bit heavier of a subject, and I would imagine we're not done with this subject by any means. So expect more updates. No clue what the next episode is going to be, but if you guys have any ideas as to what you want us to talk about or what you want to hear, what you want to learn, please by all means let us know. Miss Kali, any last words?
No, I think we'll call it. That was great. Thank you so much for
Sweet.
all your research and all your insights, and yeah, I appreciate how vigilant.
Thank you. I was holding on to every one of your words today. I think that was beautiful. Thank you so much.
We're feeling it. We had a lot to say.
Oh, right.
Big stuff, guys.
I also miss you. That helps.
I know. Mr. Musk.
Mr. Sims. Oh, God. All right. Well, I have been your host, Miss Tootie O. Miss Meeks Kali, I love you so much. Thank you.
Love you so much, Tootie. Thanks, everyone.
/OffTheMarkCast, Instagram /OffTheMarkCast, Twitter /OffTheMarkCast. We're not on there much, but we're going to be on there soon. The views are getting low, you guys, so I don't know what that's about. I don't know if YouTube's messing with us, but either way, I encourage you to share with your friends, especially the ones you want to piss off. I'm your guy for that. So let's do it. So yeah, stay focused, stay vigilant, and we love you guys. Peace.